Self-respect is not something a man suddenly discovers one morning. It is not bought, demanded, or declared aloud. It is built quietly, decision by decision, habit by habit, moment by moment. And among the many disciplines that shape a man's inner world, few touch the core of self-respect as profoundly as semen retention. At its heart, semen retention is not merely about abstaining from release. That is the surface misunderstanding. The deeper truth is that semen retention is a reordering of values. It is a conscious refusal to live as a slave to impulse. It is the decision to treat one's life force not as entertainment, but as something sacred, intentional, and worthy of respect. When a man begins to retain, something subtle yet powerful happens. His relationship with himself changes. And as that relationship shifts, self-respect naturally deepens. A man cannot respect himself if he cannot control himself. This truth is uncomfortable, which is why many avoid it. But self-respect and self-control are inseparable. One feeds the other. Every time a man gives in to compulsive release, especially driven by boredom, loneliness, stress, or fantasy, he sent himself a quiet message: I am ruled by my urges. Over time, this message compounds. Confidence erodes. Integrity weakens. The inner voice loses authority. Semen retention interrupts this cycle. When a man resists an urge, not out of repression, but out of conscious choice, he sends a different message inward. I am in charge. That message may be faint at first, but it grows louder with repetition. Each retained moment is a vote for discipline. Each resisted impulse is a brick laid in the foundation of self-respect. Self-respect deepens not because the urges disappear, but because the man learns he is stronger than them. One of the most corrosive enemies of self-respect is self-betrayal. Self-betrayal happens when a man repeatedly does what he knows, deep down, is not aligned with his higher self. He makes promises to himself he does not keep. He sets intentions he casually breaks. He tells himself, just this once, until once becomes routine. Semen retention forces honesty. There is no hiding from oneself in this practice. Either you honor your word, or you don't. Either you hold the line, or you cross it. This stark clarity is uncomfortable, but it is also cleansing. When a man begins to keep his promises to himself, something profound shifts. He starts to trust himself, and trust is the root of self-respect. You cannot respect someone you do not trust, even if that someone is you. Retention is not about perfection. It is about alignment. Each day a man stays aligned with his intention. The fracture between who he is and who he wants to be begins to heal. There is a reason ancient traditions across cultures treated sexual energy with reverence. They understood something modern society has forgotten. Where your energy goes, your identity follows. Constant release drains more than physical fluid. It drains focus, motivation, and emotional stability. Over time, a man who dissipates his energy carelessly often feels scattered, reactive, and hollow. He may not consciously notice it, but he senses a lack of weight within himself. Retention restores that weight. As energy accumulates, a man begins to feel grounded. His presence thickens. His words carry more intention. He moves less frantically and thinks more clearly. This is not mystical exaggeration. It is the natural result of conserved vitality. With retained energy comes a subtle dignity. The man no longer feels the need to chase validation, attention, or stimulation. He becomes less desperate to be seen, because he finally sees himself. Self-respect deepens when a man feels full rather than depleted. One of the most misunderstood aspects of semen retention is the belief that it is anti-desire. In truth, it refines desire. Before retention, desire often controls the man. It pulls him toward screens, fantasies, and impulsive decisions. Desire becomes noisy, demanding, and shallow. Through retention, desire is no longer suppressed. It is disciplined. The man begins to experience desire as energy rather than command. He feels attraction without compulsion. He notices beauty without immediately wanting to consume it. This shift is crucial. When a man is no longer dragged around by desire, he begins to respect himself more. He realizes he is not an animal acting on instinct alone, but a conscious being capable of choice. Desire stops being a weakness and becomes a source of power. One of the lesser-spoken effects of semen retention is the emergence of inner silence. Without constant stimulation and release, the mind gradually settles. The endless loop of craving, fantasy, guilt, and distraction begins to quiet. In that quiet, something important happens. A man starts to hear himself, not the anxious voice, not the impulsive voice, but the deeper, steadier voice of intuition. This voice does not shout. It does not beg. It simply knows. Self-respect deepens when a man listens to this voice and acts accordingly. Over time, this creates inner authority. He no longer needs external permission to trust his path. He moves with conviction, not because he is arrogant, but because he is aligned. A man who listens to himself walks differently in the world. A man who lacks self-respect struggles with boundaries. He overextends. He people-pleases. He tolerates disrespect. He stays in situations that drain him because he fears discomfort or rejection. Semen retention changes this dynamic. As self-respect grows, boundaries stop feeling like aggression and start feeling like self-care. The man becomes selective with his time, energy, and attention. He says no without guilt. He walks away without explanation. This is not coldness, it is clarity. Retention teaches a man that his energy is finite and valuable. Once he understands this internally, he stops handing it out recklessly. Others feel this shift immediately. Some will resist it. Others will respect it. Either way, the man no longer negotiates his worth. Self-respect is holistic. It cannot be compartmentalized. When a man practices discipline in sexual energy, it spills into other areas of life. He becomes more consistent in work, more intentional in speech, more patient in conflict, more resilient under pressure. Why? Because discipline compounds. Retention trains the nervous system to tolerate discomfort without escape. It teaches delayed gratification. It strengthens the muscle of choice. These qualities are foundational to self-respect. A man who knows he can endure urge, frustration, and tension without collapsing gains quiet confidence. He stops seeing himself as fragile. He begins to see himself as capable, and capability is deeply respectable. Eventually, something subtle but profound occurs. The way a man sees himself in a mirror changes. Not necessarily because his face looks different, but because his eyes do. There is less shame, less avoidance, less self-contempt. Instead, there is recognition. He sees someone who is trying, someone who is disciplined, someone who is becoming. This shift cannot be faked. It comes only from lived integrity. Semen retention strips away illusions. It forces a man to confront himself honestly. And, paradoxically, it is through this confrontation that self-acceptance grows. A man who respects himself does not need to inflate his ego. He simply stands firm. One of the clearest signs that self-respect has deepened is the reduced need for external validation. Before retention, many men unconsciously chase approval, especially sexual approval, to feel worthy. Attention becomes a substitute for self-esteem. Retention breaks this dependence. As inner fullness increases, the man stops looking outward to confirm his value. Compliments become pleasant, not necessary. Rejection becomes feedback, not devastation. This internal shift is powerful. A man who values himself does not beg to be chosen. He chooses. Many men begin semen retention chasing benefits, confidence, attraction, clarity, success. But those are side effects. The real reward is self-respect. It is waking up without regret. It is moving through the day with alignment. It is knowing your word means something. It is feeling whole in your own presence. Self-respect is quiet, but it is unshakable. When a man respects himself, he does not need to dominate others. He does not need to prove anything. His energy speaks before he does. And semen retention, practiced with intention and maturity, is one of the most direct paths to that state. Semen retention is not about denying pleasure. It is about choosing purpose over impulse. It is about deciding that your life force deserves more than momentary release. As a man retains, Self-respect deepens naturally, not because he is perfect, but because he is present, because he is deliberate, because he is no longer leaking himself away. In a world that encourages men to indulge endlessly and think shallowly, the man who practices restraint becomes rare, and rarity carries value. When you honor your energy, you honor yourself. When you honor yourself, your standards rise. When your standards rise, your life follows. Self-respect deepens, and everything else aligns. Join the Retain to Thrive Telegram channel at the link below, where we focus on building discipline, overcoming distractions, and achieving goals. Join the supportive community, sharing tips, motivation, and accountability. Let's grow together, one step at a time. Subscribe to this YouTube channel and share the video.